Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast.
All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. Kevin and Angel here, and today we're going to be talking about something that's been kind of weighing on my heart and my mind recently, and that's about taking your business to the next level and the proper steps that you need to take in order to actually accomplish that and do that. And so, I've worked with hundreds of dog trainers over the last couple of years, and I've seen people that have been able to grow businesses that are wildly profitable and, make anywhere between $50 to $100 and $150,000 a month. And then I've also worked with people who, kind of stay stuck, or spoken to a lot of trainers that haven't even come to work with us, and they've been stuck and stayed in the same place for years at a time. And so what I really want to talk about on this episode is just kind of like the proper steps to take to get yourself out from the current situation you're in and kind of like launch yourself into that next phase of your business. So Angel, I'd love to hear from you, because we work with a lot of people who are in that range of like having okay months, maybe doing like anywhere from like $1,000 to like $5,000 a month. And even some cases, $1,000, $2,000 a month. And their goal is to get more to that, like that first stepping stone would be 5 to 10K, and then 10 to 15K, 15 to 20, so on and so forth. So what do you see for most people, and what do you find to be most beneficial in order to kind of accomplish those goals?
I would say the biggest thing from what we see, at least, is I think the first step is realizing that you have to get over some fears, because when it comes to having to take your business to the next level, or, doing things in your business that does require growth and stuff like that, oftentimes people are hesitant to do it, which all stems from fear, whether it's hiring someone or I guess just like making changes in their business that do require more time from them, maybe require more driving, just require more out of them in general. Like maybe trying to cut corners and be like, oh, let me try to change my sales process to try to get in new clients this way instead, because this is going to be more convenient for me. It's going to help cut back on driving and stuff like that. So different things like that people tend to be hesitant about, which again, all stems from fear. So I think that's the first thing, is realizing like you can't really grow in your business unless you are willing to take certain steps that are going to make it a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit difficult for a time period. You're going to go through like growing pains and stuff like that, but it's just like the cost of doing business, and you might need to invest a little extra money for a certain time period, or invest a little bit more time in order to get to that point. So again, like going back to hiring, and not to go into a whole like hiring rabbit hole, because I know we talk about that a lot, but fear behind like, am I going to have the time to train this person, or am I going to have the money to train this person, or just like hire this person? Or a lot of the time we just got done talking about this recently, of like people saying, I'm like a huge control freak. I can't make a hire because I can't trust someone else. So yeah, again, first thing that comes to mind for me is fear, and being willing to overcome those things in order to take the next step in your business, in order to get to the point of growth.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of how to articulate this in a way that isn't super offensive or anything like that. So get ready. I think this is going to offend some people, but I'm just going to say it anyway, because I feel like if this is helpful for somebody out there, even helpful to one person, then it's worth saying it. I hear from people a lot, saying things like, well, I just don't want to do that, or I don't want to have to drive to consultations. I don't want to have to even do consultations. I just want to sell over the phone. And the truth is with that, like if it's working for you in your sales process, if you're genuinely happy and it's genuinely working, then great, like you can keep doing that. But if you're somebody who like is not succeeding in their business in the capacity that they want to be, and you are like, I heard somebody say to me recently, they were like, well, that's a half hour away. I don't want to drive a half hour. And I'm like, man, that's just flat out freaking pathetic. When people say stuff like that to me and they're like, I don't want to drive a half hour to go meet with my client or a lead to potentially make a $4,000 sale. I'm like, I cannot imagine a more screwed up mindset than that. And
Mhm.
when people, it kind of makes me cringe sometimes because I talk to people and they have nothing but time. Young people who don't have a wife or a husband, don't have kids, they have a car, they have spots open for dogs and stuff like that. There's no dogs in there with them working yet. And they're like, I'm just too busy for that. And it's like, man,
Mhm.
you should if you really want this in your business, if you really want to build a profitable business, here's what you should really do. You should drop everything that you're doing other than growing your business for a period in your life and just devote yourself fully to running around and doing as many consultations as you can. Because if you do that, then I guarantee you're going to make sales and I guarantee you're going to have a growing business. But it blows my mind when people are like, I don't have time for that. It's like, you don't have time not to do it. It's really the only thing that you should be focusing on is doing more consultations and being willing to drive and accommodate people. In the beginning with a business, like, there's a lot of scenarios, most times, pretty much every time, you got to bootstrap it. You got to like work your ass off and do things that are really uncomfortable. And yeah, I just this is on the top of my mind recently because I had a conversation with somebody recently and I turned them away. I didn't. They wanted to work with us and I turned them away as a client because I was like, you're just never going to do the things, at least not right now. You're not in a place where you're going to do and be receptive to doing the things that you need to do to grow and run a successful dog training company. And so this is
Mhm.
just to say, like, I hope this could be something that, grips somebody and makes them realize, like, oh, yeah, why wouldn't I be willing to drive 45 minutes, an hour and a half in some cases, if I have a high likelihood of making a $4,000 sale, right? I understand it if you're like, I don't want to drive there and I'm selling, a one off lesson. Like, I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that either. But the point is like you need to find a system in your business in a way to consistently acquire clients and make your revenue more predictable to be able to take your business into that next phase and be able to do the things like you were talking about with like hiring and, maybe buying back some of your time and stuff like that. But it's interesting. There's a lot of people I've met who like want to run their business the way that somebody who's been running the business for 20 years and has built it up to a certain point and has a little bit more freedom in their life. Like they want to run it that way. But what they're not willing to do is what that guy or girl did in the beginning 20 years ago to start the business and like launch it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. When I was still actively training, I more often than not was doing consultations that were an hour to hour and a half away.
Mhm.
Like if I got consultation, that's because that's where like most of my clients came from. And if I got consultations closer than that, that just happened to be a treat. But it was the norm for me to be doing consultations further away because those were the areas where there were more people looking for training. There was more money in those areas and stuff like that. So it was such a norm for me. And it's really just all a mindset thing because I remember, like, again, about an hour, hour and a half was pretty normal. But if there was ever a consultation that was like at an hour and a half or maybe slightly over, internally, I'm like, oh, this fucking sucks. But
Mhm.
in my head, I'm like, I almost like can't wait to do this consultation because I can't afford not to,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
And then
And
people
so
say things. I'm sorry, Angel. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna finish off by saying, like, it's just all mindset because people say, like, I don't want to do that. I can't afford to do that. That's too much driving versus having the mindset of, like, I need to go do this consultation because I can't afford not to. I can't afford to not do this consult and then have this person who would have potentially signed up for three, four, $5,000 program and then me turn it away just because I don't want to drive.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I've had people recently saying to me like, "Oh, I just can't be driving and doing consultations like that because, gas is so expensive right now." And I'm
Hmm.
like, because it's a couple bucks more expensive per gallon. Like you're still driving to somebody to go and make a sale for $1,000 on the lower end, right? Really two, three, $4,000 if you're doing things correctly. So I remember during COVID, like people saying stuff to me like, "Oh man, COVID, like I can't really do anything, can't really run my business. COVID, am I right?" And it's like, man, there's people who built multi-million dollar fortunes during COVID, and there's people that wasted 4 years of their life and they were like collecting checks for a large portion of it, sitting on the couch and just like doing other things. And like, that's fine. That's what you chose to do with your time. But I feel like there's always going to be something. There's always a new war going on. There's always a new president. There's always an election. there's always an economic downturn, there's always a holiday, there's always a really hot month, there's always a really cold month. Like there's literally always something. And so when people say stuff like that to me, I'm like, I've fallen into that trap before. But anytime I start finding myself like sitting there thinking like, oh, it's slow because of this, it's like, don't accept that as your reality. Just be unwilling to accept that and refuse to just like live within that box of like, I'm slow because I can't drive to this person because gas is expensive. It's like, trust me, you will not care about the extra $12 you spent in gas when you make a $4,000 sale. And
Mhm.
like that is the definition of being like penny wise and pound foolish, where you're like, you're operating your business from the expense side of the P&L statement. You're like only focused on how to save money, not how to make money. And saving money is a good skill set to have. But listen, you can't outsave shitty revenue.
Mhm.
Like you just can't do it. Like if you run a business and your business only generates like 10 grand a year or something like that, not to knock anybody who's in that phase of their business, but like you can't live off of $10,000 a year. So like, why are you trying to like save as much of it as possible instead of like trying to reinvest in it and do the things that can help you get to $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, right? $100,000 a month. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think a lot of this, like getting to that next phase in your business is first off, if you are chronically stuck where you are in your business and you've been stuck there for the past couple months, the past couple years, doing the same thing over and over gets you the same result over and over and over, right? So what you have to kind of think about there is like, if I'm getting the same result because I'm doing the same thing, then in order to get a different result, I need to do a different thing. And so for a lot of us, that just means like, frankly, being willing to walk through the valley of despair a little bit and do some stuff that's really uncomfortable and take late consultations, drive to people a little bit further away, spend more money on marketing, step outside of our comfort zone. But we just can't keep doing the same stuff over and over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're, um, I feel like we maybe talked about this in the last podcast or something, or maybe it was a conversation between you and I. It just feels familiar. We were talking about like different clients that we had talked to who were kind of like in that part of their business where they're like, what can I do to grow? What can I do to like get in more revenue or whatever. Yeah, those were interesting conversations because it was like on one hand, with one of the clients, didn't, there were certain things they didn't want to do. But at the same time, like they're doing really good for themselves right now. Their business is going good and they're also happy with like the work life balance that they had. And so, just like through conversations, they just ended up realizing, like, okay, this is where I'm going to be at and I'm happy with it and stuff like that. But obviously, it doesn't hurt to try to figure out like if there are little things here and there that you're unaware of that could help you with growing. So again, like you have to just be happy with where you're at or willing to do certain things that you just need to do in order to reach different goals. And one of our other clients, it was kind of a similar situation, but with him, it's just like they got to a point where they're just kind of like outgrowing themselves. Like their schedule is just like jam packed every single day, outgrowing their facility and stuff like that. And it was like, well, you can't really do anything with your schedule because the people that you do have on your team, like these aren't things that you're comfortable with handing off to them because it's all like sales and stuff. But you also can't really take anyone off of your schedule because that is what you need to do in order to get more clients. And inevitably, he ended up making a hire and it's for a position that's going to help take some of that stuff off of his plate. So
Yeah.
I like having those talks with clients because it really helps like break down every little part of their business. And I feel like that's really what people need. Like it's not just about what should I do next to grow my business and then having an answer of like, okay, start doing this. Because for some people, it is harder to for some people, it could just be as simple as like, okay, start doing this next thing, and that's how you're going to grow your business. And they're like, cool, okay. And then others, and these are the conversations that I really enjoy, is like really breaking things down, um, and kind of like explaining to them every little part for them to understand. Like, well, you have to do this, and this is why. you have to do this and this is why, you have to do this and this is why, like breaking down those little parts for them to really see like the changes that they have to make. Cause sometimes it's not just a matter of like, do this one big thing and then you're growing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you're a dog trainer who you can take on a couple board and trains out of your home, most people that we work with are capable on their own. I would say they probably cap out around like 20 to 25 grand a month between doing like if you're trying to do everything yourself and you have limited kennel space in your home. There are people that we work with who are like, I got 50 kennels at my house and stuff like that. But that's obviously not the norm. The norm is like somebody who's running out of their garage and there's limitations on how many dogs they can take in and work themselves and stuff like that. So I would say like 20 to 25 grand. Sometimes maybe you can really push it to 30 grand in a month or something like that. But if you want to make the jump, if you're in that phase from going from like 25 to 50, there's going to be slightly more complex things that you're going to need to solve, right? You're going to need to get like good people, another good kennel tech, maybe another trainer in to help you, somebody to help out with the phones and stuff like that. And then you just have to do more and more of that to go from 50 to 100 and so on and so forth, right? 50 to
Mhm.
100 grand a month, not a year, obviously. But for somebody who's like zero to $1,000 a month right now, and they're trying to go from like, that range to like 5 to 10 grand, to me, what it really a lot of the time is like you're pretty much your own biggest enemy, and your mind is telling you things that are just like not true. And a lot of times what it just comes down to is like doing more of the stuff that's already working. That's what scaling a business really is. A lot of times people think like, time for me to scale, so now I need to start doing like all this social media content. I need to be doing Google, and I need to be doing Facebook, and I need to be doing like door hangers, and I need to be doing like group walks and pack walks, and going and meeting with vets and all this stuff. And it's like, all of that is good. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of people that have built businesses making 50 to 100 grand a month. And all they did was just like up their ad spend. And so what you really want
Mhm.
to do here is like the most important thing is just doing more of the stuff that already works. Like if you know that
Mhm.
you can go into a group, like a local Facebook group, and create a post, and every time you do that, you get 6 leads and you set, 4 consultations and then 2 people buy. It's like, just do more posts each month,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
If you are like, struggling to get to that 10K mark and you're like, hey, I'm doing that and I'm just still not hitting that, it's like, yeah, you probably want to add in some sort of like paid advertising strategy. So it's not so reliant on you posting in groups. But a lot of times, like a lot of people get hung up on this idea too of like they get leads and some people buy and some people don't. And then when I break it down for them, I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about how many people did in-person consults with you. And they're like, oh, dude, when I do an in-person consult, everybody buys. And I'm like, okay, why don't you just do more in-person consults then? Well, that's a good point. I never really thought about that. And so I've had that
Mhm.
conversation a million times. So I think what I'm really trying to get at here is like, figure out what's working. Don't go off of emotion, what I feel like is working, but take a look back at your calendar. How of the last 10 in-person consults I did, what percentage of people bought? Where are my leads actually coming from? How do I get more of those leads? Not like, where do I want to get my leads from? You
Mhm.
can look at it that way if you want to change up your marketing strategies. But like, if you're getting leads right now and you have a channel, how do I get more out of that channel? You know? So I feel like that was just a total word salad there. So Angel, why don't you close this out here and try and make sense of what I just said there?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna touch on you like the example that you brought up of like asking clients how many of, the consultations that they've closed over the last, whatever time period we're talking about because sometimes it is just a matter of like helping the client realize you're really good at closing people when you're getting in front of people, but you're just not getting in front of enough. So we need to work on you scheduling more consultations because that might be the thing that helps you get your business to the next level is just getting better at talking to people on the phone and then scheduling consultations. It might not be, having to make these huge jumps in your business or even investing more. I mean, that would be helpful, but that might not be what it is. It could just be a matter of like answer your phone more so you can actually talk to people or schedule more consultations because the ones that you have done, you've, clearly proved that every time you get in front of them, you sell and you have so many more leads that you could be taking advantage of. So, yeah, those are conversations I have a lot with people too is like they have like this one idea in mind or this one goal of something they want to do and it's great, want to help them, but then it's like sometimes that's not necessary. let's go backwards and figure out like where we should actually shift our focus, where we can kind of like make more progress and help you achieve these goals better with what you have right in front of you by just like making some small improvements in your process.
Yeah, and like we've seen this over the years where people have these great months and then all of a sudden they're like, this month's really slow. I don't this is something's changed, it's not working anymore, the leads are no good, stuff like that. And then we go and do an evaluation on their business top to bottom and they're like, I'm just not as busy, or the leads aren't as serious. And like we look at it and their numbers with them and we're like, hey, back in January, you did 17 consultations. Like over the last 30 days, in March, you only did two and you closed both of them. Like, why didn't you, set more consultations? They're like, well, people were asking for the price over the phone. And then they start saying things out loud and they realize, like, as they're saying it, kind of like, I just didn't set as many consultations. And if I just did more of that, I would make more sales. And
Hmm.
so, I've said this the past couple of podcasts, like most of us don't need to be taught. We need to be reminded. And that's what it is. It's like that person needs to be just reminded, like, you're really good when you do consultations. So just set more consultations and don't give up the price on the phone call. And as soon as you do that, all of a sudden, right away, they're back making $4,000 sales again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes people just kind of like lose their mojo a little bit and then you just remind them of things they already know and they're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, let's wrap it up here for the day. But I hope you guys got some value out of this episode. And yeah, I mean, we're always looking for new topics to talk about. So again, if there's anything that you guys want to hear us talk about, anything that you think would be helpful for your business, make sure to put it in the comments section below, and we can definitely cover that in one of the next episodes. So with that being said, we're going to wrap things up for here, and we will see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.